So, first of all, I must thank Reverend Abhi for welcoming me again this time to this Unitarian Church. I don't know if I live up to the expectations. I think he's a good friend, he loves me, so I'll try my best to be as I am and share what I know or what I think I know with you all. So I think that's better. Yes, I'm very concerned about world peace. I mean, concerned in the positive way that we should do something about it. Apart from that, if somebody has to really do something about bringing people together at peace with each other, I think it starts with inner peace. One can't, with social reforms, bring about, social reforms are necessary. We're not denying that, we're not arguing on that. However, unless my personal mind is at peace, it's very difficult to translate bringing of peace into action. It's very difficult to do that because I am not peaceful. My mind is violent and I want to bring about peace. It doesn't work that way. So therefore, there are two aspects to this peace. One is inside and the other is outside. So of late, going through what we have in this world, and in connection with what I have learned of the inner spiritual life, I've tried to give equal importance to both. It's not enough if you only give importance to the inner, you should also give importance to the outer, because otherwise it just doesn't work. Now, because in this field of meditation and mystical experience, there is a chance that one might end up being too self-enclosed and enjoying oneself in some kind of a trance, which even LSD addicts can enjoy. And, no, not the same thing, but similar. And therefore not care for others. I mean, this is very difficult. I mean, this is not the right thing to do, according to me. So, last time I started with Sahana Vavatu. This time, I want to start with another wonderful mantra. Now, when you say mantra, don't immediately come to the conclusion that it's a magical invocation to create ash or something like that, or make flowers fall from the roof. Mantra is that which uses the mind as a machine, manyantra, that which turns the mind into a powerful tool, let's put it that way. So this mantra comes from very ancient sources, maybe perhaps 2000 years old at a very conservative estimate. Some people say less, but it doesn't matter. The mantra is very interesting. It says, Purnamada, Purnamidam, Purnat Purnamaduchyate, Purnasya Purnamataya, Purnameva Vashishyudu. What is this Purna going on? So, Purna, the word Purna means fullness, completeness. Fullness and completeness, which we all seek in some way or the other. I think the whole of life revolves around the human being trying to seek fullness, trying to become complete, trying to fulfill ourselves, even in the material world which we live in. Inner world, of course, if you are spiritually inclined, but definitely in the outer world, because, right. So, in fact, I'll give you an example. Now the mantra says, Purnam Ada, which means that is complete. That is what? What is that? What could that mean? Meaning, the divine or the supreme reality which the mystic seeks is that. And that is the basis, the fundamental basis of this entire universe. And according to Vedanta, the whole universe has proceeded from it, and it goes back to it in a sense. This is complete by itself, it's Purna. Or it doesn't require anything to be fulfilled. It's self-fulfilled, without any external need to depend on anything. That. Now the mantra says, Purnamidam. Now that's the good news. While that is complete, this world which has come out from that is also complete. But we don't know it. Since we don't know how complete it is, we try to fulfill it in many ways. So, Purnamada Purnamidam. And this completeness, they didn't say this incompleteness has come from that completeness. They said this completeness has come from that completeness, which means there are the seeds of completeness in each one of us. There is a seed of fulfillment in each one of us. This completeness has come from that completeness. Purnasya Purnamathaya. You take this completeness out of that as an individual, and still nothing is reduced. Purnameva avashishyate. Completeness remains as completeness without minus or plus. Now the nearest you can go in the physical theories of physics is that matter can neither be created nor destroyed. I mean, this is physics. I'm not mixing it up. It can only change from one form to another, I mean physically. In the same way, this essence of our being, which has come from that essence, is complete. We need to just figure this out. And for that, we need internal engagement with the mind and outward engagement with other human beings. You can't live in this world isolated. Days are gone when you could live in a cave and say that, oh, I'm a mystic. You can't do that. First of all, there are no caves available. We might think there are, but I must tell you this story. There was this, when I was very young, I ran away from home. Not an inducement to young people to do that, but I ran away from home and I was in the Himalayas. So in Rishikesh, those days, in the end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s, Rishikesh was a different place altogether. Now it's become more like a tourist paradise. I won't say paradise, but a tourist center. Because Delhi is so close. People come every Saturday, Sunday, enjoy themselves, throw the plastic and go home. It's changed. But those days it was a different place. And I was once wandering near the Ganga when I saw this man from the state from which I come from, in Kerala, who came to me and suddenly started shouting, hey, this is a horrible place, I don't want to be here, there's so much noise, all these ashram, loudspeakers. I said, okay, so what's the problem? Why are you shouting? What can we do about it? He said, why are you here? It's a waste of time. I said, relax, what's the matter? He said, no, I came to do serious spiritual meditation. I can't do anything here. I have to go away and find some place. I said, okay. So then what are you going to do? He said, in Lakshman Jhula, close to Rishikesh, there's a cave. I'm hoping to go and sit there and meditate. I said, all right, do it, try it out. So this guy went. 3 days later, I saw him. I don't feel like leaning backwards. 3 days later, I see him back. So I said, what happened? He said, you won't believe this. I went to the cave, I sat down for 3 days. I meditated so deeply. And then I heard some noise, so I opened my eyes. I thought an extraterrestrial has arrived to bless me. Nowadays everybody is extraterrestrial. So it has arrived to bless me. And I said, but why did you come to that conclusion? He said he was wearing a helmet and there was some kind of tube coming from there, like a space suit. And he said to me, I said, so can you instruct me? He said, instruct, get out of here. I said, but why? He said, I've come to spray for mosquitoes. I'm from the municipality. So, this is the situation. You can hardly find a cave. People tell me, can you take us to the caves which you were when you were in the Himalayas? I say, I can, but I can't assure you they are the same. In fact, we are going to Badrinath in October. So let's see how the caves still remain. We'll find out. So anyway, that's one thing. We need to live in this world and engage with human beings and also find what is deep within us. Both have to go together. And unless we mature inward, I don't think we can deal with it outwardly. So therefore, the priority, of course, is to engage inward. But once you've done that, it's important that you engage with the outside world. My master, Babaji, Maheswarnath Babaji, used to tell me that if you sit in a cave, he also sat in a cave, and meditate for 10 hours a day. Well, I also had to go through this grueling discipline sometimes. Nobody will do it. They can't meditate 1 hour a day. They said, I am meditating for 16 years, nothing is happening. I said, how long? 10 minutes a day. So said, if you are in a cave meditating for 10 hours every day, okay, and then after 10 years, you say that now I'm free of anger and jealousy and all these myriad things that disturb us, and now my mind is calm and tranquil. He used to ask me, but who is there in the cave to disturb you? Can you get angry with the cave walls of the cave? Can you feel jealous of the walls of the cave? What happens? You can't. How do you find out if you really settle down when you come out? When you come out and see the outside world, and when you come out of the cave, get into a bus, and somebody kicks you on your toes, especially with a stiletto heel, if we don't have them much there, then you know where you stand. Am I getting angry? You can't figure that out when you're alone there. So, all I'm trying to say, while periods of solitude are essential, I'm not denying that. Retreats are good, periods, but we should translate it into action in the outside world. So, now, that's one side of the question. Now we started with Purna. This completeness has, this fullness has been since immemorial times described by just one word, that. Now, if you think this is only in Vedanta, let me move a little bit to something else. If you remember, if you have read the Old Testament, Moses goes up to the mountain. I think it's Sinai. He goes up to the mountain. And then he's wearing shoes. So, a voice comes which says, Moses is stepping on sacred ground, take off your shoes. Well, we do that in all temples in India. When we go in, we take off our shoes. In fact, one of the teachers said, when you take off your shoes, leave your ego there and come in. Not always possible, but so, which means it's a sacred place, so keep your shoes out. But one good advantage in Christian churches is that you can go in with shoes. We find it so difficult in India sometimes. You have to take off your shoes. You can walk in quietly. Anyway, that's a different matter. So the voice said, take off your shoes for you're on sacred ground. And then Moses goes. And he sees a light which has been described as the fire in the bush. Okay? There's a fire in the bush. IST. Fire in the bush. So, Moses is concerned. What is this fire in the bush? He doesn't know what he says. What is this? Who are you? At least he realizes that it is not a material thing, but something beyond. So he says, who are you? And the answer comes, I'm talking about Purna being that. And this that has been used for centuries. by different religious teachings. And when he says, "Who are you?" the answer is, well, in Hebrew, correct me if my pronunciation is wrong, if anybody knows. The words that come is Ahiye Asher Ahiye, which means I am that I am. I am and that, which means it is that, and where does it reside? In I am, inside me also. So that Purna which is outside, that completeness, a spark of that at least, let's not say the whole thing, resides in every human being, in the heart of every human being. Now again come to another category of religious persons. There was one, we call him a parivrajaka, a great yogi. People can look at it in any way. Some people think he's an avatar. Okay. In Jerusalem, 1,000 years ago perhaps, I don't know the exact time, there walked a wandering religious person. The best definition is a wandering religious person. So I can't define in any other way. And in India, such a person is called a parivrajak, one who moves from place to place, who, in fact, self-confessed wanderer. When he says the snakes have holes and the foxes have dens, and the Son of Man does not know where to lay his head. A man who depended on food when somebody gave him bread. And also said, man does not live by bread alone. So, here's a person. So what did he say? Talking about that completeness which is in our heart, which is a spark of the all-pervading supreme reality, he said, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. All other treasures can be taken away from you in different ways. Thieves, IRS, in many ways. In India it's called income tax, IT, or your neighbor or somebody. But there is a treasure in the heart, which is the spiritual treasure, which is a spark of the divine, which cannot be taken away by anybody. And therefore he said, lay treasures in your heart where thieves do not break in and steal. Okay? Now, when this happens, what is the next reaction? What happens to a human being who has attained that fullness? He wants to share it with others. And the first thing to share would be the peaceful state that you have in yourself with others. So therefore he said also, blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called the children of God. So, while we should look within and try to find that which is inside us, we should also translate that into action, because if the spark of the divine is in me, it cannot be exclusively in me, it has to be in everybody. Therefore, everyone is a walking, talking temple or church of the Supreme Reality with a spark inside. And therefore, everyone, you need to give due respect to every human being. A human being need not be a magician showing things or bringing out things or anything of that kind. The most important thing to note, is the person human? If the person is not human, if these qualities of understanding do not come in a human being, no matter what mystical things he does, it's useless for himself and for others. As I said, even if you have 100 visions, you cannot have more than the LSD addict. So, this is something to be carefully looked at. Now, the second part of what I'm going to say is, therefore, the awareness, or what you call mindfulness. Nowadays, mindfulness is a very popular word. Everywhere, I go to Google every year and they want me to talk on mindfulness. Mindfulness. It's a Buddhist word, of course, which has come into circulation, which is good. But when you say mindfulness, is mindfulness only minding yourself? Is mindfulness confined to just sit, which is important, sitting down for some time every day and minding what thoughts are coming and becoming aware of it? Yes, that's also part of mindfulness. But mindfulness also means how mindful are you when you behave with others? Can you be kind? Can you be peaceful? Do you flare up at the slightest excuse? It's very easy to sit here and smile and say, oh, I'm a wonderful man, but how do I behave with my wife? So therefore Babaji, my master, said, get married, man. He said, you know what? It's the greatest editing that you can get in your life, where also not necessarily snipped off. Because you can pretend to be somebody, but your wife and your kids know exactly who you are and where you stand. Because usually what happens is we are double lives we lead. One in to others and one in private. Now, can we be just transparent and not be double in our lives? In fact, it's a dangerous thing. You know the word schizophrenia? What does it mean? People come to me and say, I said, look, listen, who is not schizophrenic? I mean, schizo means split. And phrenia is mind or brain. So when you say that, that means you lead a double life. You know, one thing here and one, it's already schizophrenia. It's only when the symptoms become very serious that somebody goes to a home or something, to a doctor. Otherwise, so to balance the mind and to be tranquil is to not be split but be whole. This wholeness, W-H-O-L-E, not H-O-L-E, this wholeness is what is meant by Purna. So, to reach that Purna, that complete fulfillment which we all seek. Sometimes we are alone, we are bachelors, and we think, oh, if we get married, we will become complete. Or we are married and we think, maybe if I let go of this, I might become complete. It works the other way around also. There was a holy man who came to my town where I live and drew a line and said, all married people on one side, unmarried on the other. Then he drew a line in the middle and he said, those who are not satisfied with their stations in life, cross the line. Everybody crossed. So it's a question of inner peace. It's not a question of external situations. So, therefore, I always suggest this to people that while you follow your meditation, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry. I thought I had switched it off. This is the most...
Was your wife?
Yeah. So you see, my ego is completely It's like a balloon being pricked with a pin. I need to find out how to get this off. Okay, right. Thank you. Sorry about this. So you see, I'm an ordinary man like you. So, the most important thing to understand in this is that, yes, there are ways by which you can reach within. But once you have touched the core of your being, which is a spark of the divine, please recognize the spark of the divine in others, not only in yourself, in others. And when you do that, then the world would be a peaceful place. Because you don't want to hurt yourself. And if you see yourself there, you don't want to hurt the other person. So many things will then fall in place. If we don't do this, if we think spiritual life is merely isolating yourself from everything, again, I do understand that you need periods of solitude. I get it, because it's not easy to sit in this tumultuous world and go within, yes. But once you have kind of put on the path and you're moving, when I say put on the path, I'm not saying I will put you on the path. Something which you have found. And you're going in, please make sure that you translate it into action in this world, otherwise it's meaningless. So therefore, remember these things, since this is also called a church. We are human beings. We are the ones who need to have compassion. We are the ones who need to have love to love each other. We are the ones who don't eat, we attack animals to eat. We are human beings. Therefore, if we don't have this content of peace and concern for others, the salt that you put in the water, we are the salt of the earth. But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted? What shall we do? So light the candles everywhere. Light the candle of peace, meanwhile try to find the flame within. Let both these things move together. And then there is a completeness in life which is unimaginable and which, let me tell you this, once touched, is touched forever. Thank you. We have some time now, so I deliberately cut short. There's no point in yapping away all the time. You say what you need to say and stop. So I stop deliberately now so that you have some time for a dialogue. Now, as Reverend Abhi said, it's a dialogue, not a quarrel or an argument. So, okay. And if anybody has to discuss something, please put up your hand so that we can pass the microphone, because it might be helpful for others to hear what you're saying. Oh. Mm.
Guruji?
Yes. I know you so well.
I have a question about the Kriya Yoga.
Kriya Yoga. Mm.
I read more books and your Babaji taught you and all those things. My question is, what is the real goal of Kriya Yoga? Is it to awaken the Kundalini? Can you do it on yourself, by yourself, or you have to have the guidance of the Guru? Just like Ekalavya, can I do on myself?
No, this is from the profound to the ridiculous. Anyway, I don't think the Kundalini and Kriya and all these things need to be discussed now. In this gathering, we'll be talking about greater things. However, since I do Kriya and you have read about Kriya and and so on, the question is understood. I understand what you're saying. I'm very frightened of this word Kundalini. You know why? Because now in the internet you can raise your Kundalini for $2,000. And all the guys who worked hard are fools. So I'm very careful about this word Kundalini. I generally try not to use it. I know what it means, but I don't try to use it. That's one thing. And the second is, Kundalini, Kriya cannot be sold. It's not a business. Okay. So since you have asked the question, what does Kriya mean? Kriya simply means a technique. In fact, Patanjali, in his Yoga Sutras, defines his whole teaching as Kriya. Where does he say Ashtanga Yoga? We say Ashtanga because it has 8 parts. He only calls it Kriya. So then if you see the Yoga Sutras, you will see what Kriya actually is. It means following rules and regulations, yama niyamas. You can't do Kriya without doing that. Do you think it's possible just to sit down and breathe up and down and reach the Supreme Reality? Is the Supreme Being's, can the Supreme Being be taken for a ride just because you breathe in and out every day? No. You need to change your character first. Otherwise, Kriya is not going to be of any help. You may have some visions, meaningless. So, Kriya simply means a technique. And there may be many kriyas, not only what I teach. When I teach Kriya, it comes from a certain tradition. There may be other traditions where people teach Kriya. Basically, Kriya is a training by which, all our lives, our minds are in conflict, in contradictions, disturbed. So the energy in us, the life energy in us, is always dissipated, distracted. It can't come together in one point. So the basic purpose of Kriya is to balance your mind, your breath. Fortunately, the breath is linked closely to your life energies. Pranayama doesn't mean, actually prana, the breath is called shvasa. Prana is a life energy. Fortunately, the prana and the life energy, prana and the shvasa are linked together. So if you learn some method by which you can balance the prana, which is usually dissipated through 108 nadis, then it's possible for you to move forward one-pointedly into the spiritual field. This is the meaning of Kriya. Of course, Kundalini and so on is there, but the main thing is to be able to gather your energies together into one point from where your mind, then full of energy, that which has been wasted has been saved, and then move in one point. Therefore, if thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. This is Kriya. And I teach Kriya when I think it is necessary, and there is no such rule that you will advance spiritually only if you learn Kriya. There is no such thing. My master Babaji used to ask me, what Kriya did Mirabai practice? Nothing. And he used to also ask me, what Kriya did Ramana Maharshi practice? Nothing. So it's not as if it's my tradition, of course, so I would defend it, but it's not as if everybody is compulsorily should be doing Kriya. There's no such thing. Of course, there is this propaganda that it is a jet plane path and all other this is nonsense. There is no jet plane path. You need to work hard. And the greatest work is to cut the ego into two. Shortest cut. If this is not possible, no amount of Kriya is going to help. Thank you.
Pranam Shriyam.
Yes.
Delighted to have your darshan again this year.
Sir.
What is the significance of chanting Om Shanti 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 3 times?
Good question. So, we were talking about peace, right? And the word in Sanskrit for peace is Shanti. Shanti is the word for peace. So when you say Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, it means ultimately what we need is peace. Peace of mind and peace in the world, both. Unfortunately, we don't have peace of mind because we are so self-centered. If that center breaks, then you have peace. I'm going to tell you a story. It's somehow linked to peace of mind. There was a great sage who used to live in Thiruvananthapuram, not Ramana Maharshi, after his time. His name was Ram Shurat Kumar. He used to be like a madman, just walking around. And he used to sleep under the temple chariot for many years. He didn't have a place to lay his head. In the Gita, there's a word for that, aniketa, one who didn't have a home. Homeless is not a good word nowadays, of course. And very few people used to go to him because he had no internet, no YouTube, no advertisements and so on. So very few people. So I happened to be one of the persons who went to see him once. And he was sitting down and talking and laughing and so on. So, in fact, he was the first person who called me M. Yeah, he said, oh, Madanapalli, M. Manabali, the place where I live. Anyway, so he said, sit down. So I sat down, and there was one gentleman who I think was an industrialist. Everybody was standing in the queue, but our man was standing with somebody holding an umbrella for him. So he was ignored for quite some time. And finally he called him. He said, what do you want? Now this man wanted to show that he didn't come to ask for any profits or increasing of business and so on. So he said, I don't want anything. He said, nothing? So why are you here? He said, I want peace of mind. And then he started laughing, and in the process he hit me on my right shoulder with his hand. I thought my shoulder was going to break. God, and he was laughing like, this bubbling laughter which I think only saints and lunatics have. Kind of coming from the belly laughter, free laughter. So he laughed and he said, in the midst of this laughter, few words, he said, he used to call himself this beggar. This beggar. So he said, this beggar's mind is gone to pieces and he wants peace of mind. You know what I mean? When all defenses are over and everything is broken, then what remains is peace. So that is peace of mind. And I think in an original state, all this world has come out of a little movement out of peace, and therefore it would probably go back to peace. And what we desire is peace. Without peace, you can do nothing. You can't sit, you can't study, you can't do nothing. So peace is of the essence. So for all satsangs, the beginning and end, we always chant Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om added because Om is the pranava, or the life-giving sound, and because everything is supposed to have come from Om and will go back to Om. So peace, peace, peace. If I go into the description of Om, we might go on for another hour or so. So we'll do that at some other point because it's a wonderful sound. Only thing I want to remind you is don't consider Om as a denominational sound, word. It doesn't have any denominations. It's pure sound. It's in Sanskrit because the sound was more appropriate in that language in ancient times, so it was made in that language. The Sufis use the sound Hu. So these are pure sounds, so consider it as a pure sound. So we say that Om, from where this whole universe has come and into which it will go back, may there be peace in this universe. May we go back to that peace we came from, and may there be peace in the universe. So this is the meaning of Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. There's been a cartoon going around these days. I saw it on the internet. Somebody sent it to me. There's a man meditating and chanting Om. And there are a couple of cows standing behind. And said, hey dude, I think this is the Yogi guy. I think he got the sound all wrong. Because it is moo. Om. Well, in India, a cow is sacred, so.
A very wise friend of mine, very spiritually deep woman, we were talking about spiritual transformation. And she said, spiritual transformation comes out of great suffering or great love. And I've seen a lot of discussion and had some experience of it coming out of great suffering.
No.
I'd like to understand more about how it arises out of great love.
Right. I wouldn't say that in all cases it's so, but in many cases the understanding of the truth comes about through, not through, but because of suffering. In India we have a sect, or you know them, they're called the Sikhs. SIKHs, if they wear turbans. The Guru Nanak, the founder of the Sikh religion, had a beautiful saying. He said, Sukh mein, dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi, which means it's only when you are really in sorrow that you call on God. Otherwise, you generally don't. You might light a candle and move on. I mean, but you really want to be asking for help. Okay, that's one thing. The other thing is, is, all of us have in this life to pass through some sorrow or the other. It may not be visible outside, but there is a deep sorrow in most of us. It could be to various reasons, but the fact that it is there as a common factor is important to note. And when sorrow comes, what we usually do, but we should also understand what we are doing, that we sweep it under the rug and use some kind of entertainment or something so that we are kind of out of it for the time being. But it's a temporary resort. It really doesn't go. It's inside, under the rug. And therefore, when sorrow comes, we need to face the sorrow and come out of it. Then you are unscathed. No more can sorrow touch you. Now to live with sorrow, somebody said, the person I referred to some time back said, "Blessed are they that mourn, for they shall be comforted." That doesn't mean that you should deliberately create situations where you should mourn. That's not the meaning. But when you are mourning, you're blessed because you understand the temporary impermanency of life. You see this life and you say, anytime anything can turn upside down. Say, this is not worth it. There must be something more than that. Then you move towards the spiritual. Now, there are extreme cases which is not possible for everyone, where some saints have actually invited sorrow so that they can be free from this conditioning and touch the unconditional happiness and also share it with others. And in this, I want to tell you a story from the Indian epics. You must have heard of that in India, Krishna is respected as a divinity, as an avatar, Krishna. So there was this battle of Kurukshetra, during which the Gita was taught. After the battle, Krishna is going back, going to Dwarka to live. And he needs to say goodbye to everybody. So he says goodbye to all young people his age by hugging them, but to the elders he goes and bows down. Now here is a person who is considered to be God or a manifestation of God. And he goes and bows down to the elders. Can you beat that? That's why he's respected. Anyway, that's a different matter. And then he goes to the matriarch of the family, who is known as Kunti Devi. Kunti, K-U-N-T-I, Kunti. Remember the name? It's interesting. Now this is called in India the Bhakti of Kunti. He goes to her and says, "I'm going away to Dwarka. So if you need any boon, B-O-O-N, any blessing, any boon, you can ask for it now and I can grant it for you, because then I'll be gone and you won't find me." So Kunti says to him, "Look, I think you need to end this drama. I know who you are. So don't say I'm going away, I'm coming back. You go nowhere, you come back nowhere. It's all nonsense. I don't believe you. You're there, always. So please stop this, okay? And since you said I'll ask for a boon, I have to ask you one boon. Can you grant it for me? Please don't try this. It's okay with Kunti Devi, may not be okay for us. The moment the rug is kind of pulled from under our feet, we say, no, don't do it." You know what Kunti asked? It's very interesting. She said, "Bring all the sorrows of the world on my head." You ask him of suffering, that's why I'm telling you this story. "Bring all the suffering of the world on my head." Even Krishna is taken aback. He said, "But what is this prayer, Kunti?" She says, "Because it's only when this sorrow comes that I'll call you. And sorrow upon sorrow, I keep calling you all the time. And I know that when I call you, you'll appear." This I'm confident. So I see you every day. What more do I need? Bring sorrows for me. This is the blessing I seek. So Krishna says, so be it. Everybody can't do that. We should know where we stand. Not that you should invite sorrow, that's an extreme step. But when sorrow comes, consider that also as a blessing, because it shows you where you went wrong. That this world is like this. We need to find a safe place of peace within our heart, which nobody can steal from us. That way sorrow is a wonderful thing. And also, if your mind is sensitive, you sense the sorrow of others. It's not necessary that you should have sorrow yourself. You sense other people's sorrow. And a mind which can sense other people's sorrow is a spiritual mind. If it doesn't, then you're not going on the right way. There's something wrong there. That's what I think. Sir, you asked many questions. I'll come back.
I don't want to ask about Kriya or Kundalini or anything like that.
I'm glad.
But I want to ask about meditation and contemplation, because you mentioned Ramana Maharishi and you mentioned, and there are all these other people like Jesus who went 40 days in the cave or whoever else. So every spiritual seeker somehow went through this practice of meditation. So I would like you to, how one can inculcate a practice of meditation.
Okay. First thing is, if you seriously... Hey, Christine, there's one more question there, but we can give it to him after this is over. Yeah. I'm not denying the question. Well, if you are seriously inclined towards spiritual fulfillment, it's of course necessary to meditate. There's no question about that. I'm not trying to deny that. It is absolutely... Why deny? I affirm it. It's required. Now, there are so many forms of meditation, but what you should understand is, per se, what we mean by meditation is that we are able to sit silently without being disturbed by outward circumstances, at least for a short period of time. It can be any kind. It could be a chanting, it could be meditating on something you love to meditate on, or it could be looking at a flame that is burning bright in your heart, or it could be any one of these, which depends on you. Suppose you want to consider the divine as with form. It's a beautiful form. There are lots of people who consider the divine as someone who suffered for mankind. And think of that in the heart. Great. Or you can think of a light in your heart, or any one of these. Or you can think of Krishna playing the flute. It depends upon your background and what you do. The thing is that you fix at least 10 to 15 minutes every day of your life. Don't say, I have no time. This is not possible. Because in some religions there are congregations, so people normally go there. If you don't have such congregations, you have to find what I call a one-to-one congregation in your own house, in your own mind. And there you sit down and don't allow anything else to take up that time. Don't say, I have to take my dog for a walk. Don't say, I have to play golf. Set that aside. Fix that time, because it's such an important thing to do. Your priorities have to be set. Say that this is very important. I don't know when I'm going, how long I live. I can go any time. So let me prepare myself. Okay. Having come to a conclusion on that I should, then I'll have to find a place where I'm not disturbed quietly. It could be my own house, right? And find a place where I can sit and tell everybody, even if the house burns down, don't call me for 10 minutes. I'm joking. And I'm trying to, a metaphor. It's not real. And then sit down quietly and do your meditation in a simple way. If you're asking me what should I do, I can say there's one non-denominational meditation which anybody can do. Do you have your checkbook? I'm joking. What do? You sit down, close your eyes, and inhale slowly. Now, while you inhale, give complete attention to inhalation. We never give attention to our breath, even though it's such an important part of our life. You can't live without breathing for half a minute or 1 minute, unless you're a yogi who doesn't need to breathe. That's a different story. But you need to look at your breath. So give complete attention as you inhale. First, bow down to the earth and to nature. Bend your head down and say, thank you for all that I have. And say, Shanti, peace. Then sit down. Inhale and give complete attention to the breath. Then when you breathe out, again give complete attention to your exhalation. Okay. What we do normally in the beginning of meditation is while you breathe in, we chant the sound of hum. 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 You don't have to chant it loudly. When you breathe in, imagine that your inhalation goes in with the sound of hum. And when you exhale, saw, S-A-U, if you like to say, saw. And in fact, you can exhale with your mouth also. Do this few times with your complete attention on it, and then you'll find the kind of peace coming into your system, because your energies have balanced and become quiet. This at least is the take-off point. After that, you can figure out what to do. But do this every day. So, one more question. You can pass the microphone out there.
Thank you for taking this question. A lot of people give a lot of things.
Give?
Just give donation and money, and especially when it comes to question of money. When it is given, should we worry about where it is going to be used?
First of all, don't give the money if you are doubtful about where it's going to be used. Don't give. It's better to give to somebody on the street who is very poor, rather than give it to an organization which is not going to use it properly. So you have to decide what you like to do. However, even if you give to somebody, a poor person on the street, he might use it to buy drugs. This is also possible. Right? Because if he's a drug addict, he might use it to buy drugs. You have no way to figure out, right? But that should not prevent us from giving. Giving is a state of mind. Giving is a state of mind. One who has the giving tendency gives. It doesn't matter what you get back from there. People give to sadhus and sannyasins. Do you think they give it out of generosity? They think that will solve some of their own problems. So when they give money, it's loaded with some sadness. I think I'll be cured of this disease if I give this money to the holy man. So even there, it's not as if it's completely philanthropic. It's like you have some selfish point out there. Even then, it's good to give. I would say, because in India, you see, there'll be a lot of people on the street. If you stop your car, beggars coming and asking for money. We know, of course, that some of them may be organized gangs who have been sent out to beg, yes. But how much are you giving? $5? What difference does it make? Give. Doesn't matter. I would say that. Huh? Yeah. Then there might be people giving so that their names may be put up in brass plaques. This building was donated by so and so. But that's not a good way of giving. If you give without a plaque, you understand what I mean. Now this giving is not only money, please understand. Giving is an attitude, it's not just cash. Giving is an attitude of mind, where I say, okay, the other guy is also important. He needs to look after himself. He has no way, so can I do something for him? In India, we have a saying that the greatest giving, we call it dana, is annadana. That means to give food. How? If you give me 10 rupees, $10, I'm not happy. You don't have to give me, I'm just saying joke. It's like an example, I don't want. You give me $10, I say, give me some more, 20, 30, 40, 50. There is no end to it. However, if you feed me, after a while I can't eat. You may say, please. I say, no, please, I can't. I'm full. So what happens when you give food is it is complete fulfillment, at least for the time being. So instead of giving money, somebody may buy drugs, feed. Somebody says, I'm hungry, come with me, come to a restaurant, have food to your fill. All I'm saying is you have to find out ways and means how you operate, but the giving feeling has to be there. Thank you. Thank you very much for listening to me patiently and you needn't be thankful. I'm thankful to you because you are allowing me to do the work that I have. So thank you once again. As you said, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thank you, Reverend, for this wonderful evening.
Thank you for gracing us with your presence and your words. Gratitude.